people with real jobs.
Hello?
Self-employed people. Which do you want to be? This is Certifiably Unemployable. It's time to fire the boss and become self-employed. Maybe you need a push to get that business or side gig going that you've been dreaming about for years. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can listen to stories and get experience from people who've done it. Get ready to change your life. Broadcasting from the compound, this is Certifiably Unemployable, and this is Sean Dean.
Welcome to Certifiably Unemployable. I am your host, Sean Dean, and we want to welcome you to another episode for us to help you become certifiably unemployable, fire that boss, and take that next step towards financial freedom and having the happiness that you choose in your life. So today we're going to be talking about the power of prioritizing yourself, which this topic has been one of the things that people have been asking more and more about. How do I work from home? How do I prioritize my time, not just in my business, but in my life? And so we have our guest, Kacee Leigh, is on the show today. Now, Kacee, she's lived in fitness her entire life, from youth sports to being a Division I NCAA diver. She's driven by her passion for healthy living, fitness, nutrition, and mindset. Leigh has focused her life on helping women find their own passions in fitness, have the energy to rule the world, and build a life that makes them feel full, focused, and content. She's got a certified exercise psychologist by the American College on Sports Medicine. She's also certified personal trainer by the American Council on Exercise and a certified health coach, amongst other things, by the American Council on Exercise. So Kacee Leigh, welcome to Certifiably Unemployable. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. That was quite the introduction.
Well, you know, you've got a heck of a resume, and that's not even scratching the surface on some of the stuff that you've listen, I said, give me some information. You gave me the information, but there's so many accolades and so many things. You've got a 7-day health challenge that I want to definitely make sure we mention. But one of the things that I love about you talking about prioritizing your daily life, your schedule. I've had so many people reach out to me, especially since the whole thing going on, whether you're listening during this COVID-19 pandemic or not. I think one of the biggest things that people that are new to being self-employed, working from home, is understanding how to get disciplined, how to get up in the morning, go through your routine. I think you and I might have talked about this when we first chatted on the phone, but understanding that just because you're not leaving home doesn't mean you don't have things to do. So this topic, I think, is always going to be relevant. People that are brand new to the work from home space especially need to understand that there really is some thought process that goes behind it. And not only with business, but with your personal life, with your fitness, your health, and all that. So I thought you were 100% the perfect candidate to help us talk about this topic. And so as you're listening, you want a question, or you want to make a comment, you want to ask a question to Kacee, just go ahead and leave those comments. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook, do so. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or one of the other podcast bases, then just send us a message through Facebook or certifiablyunemployable@gmail.com. So Kacee, let's go ahead and get cracking. So what is your first step towards the power of prioritizing yourself?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a big question. And everything that you just brought up already totally encapsulates it. As business owners, I think of the book Leaders Eat Last. I haven't read it yet. It's on my list. It's on my bookshelf, ready to go. But I always think of business owners putting themselves last. They put everything else first, everything behind their time and their family and their resources, and everything that they have comes before themselves.
Right.
And so focusing on the freedom of self-employment is the beauty that the business should serve you, not you serving the business. So putting yourself first is such a hard thing to do, but it truly is a necessary thing to be able to grow our businesses and have it sustainable. You know, we don't wake up one day and want to burn it all down. Like, it really serves us and we feel full and focused in it. So the number one thing, like you said, is build a routine. Have a morning routine that is set, that fills your cup. I mean, I talk about my morning routine is 3 hours long, and that's because it's, you know, a half hour eating breakfast and enjoying coffee with my husband. It's getting an hour in the gym with 15 minutes of driving one way, other way, and then really sitting down, having my goal setting, sitting down and reading. And then I get my day started before I even look at Facebook or social media or, even answer client emails. That all comes before I do any of that. So that is absolutely the number one thing, and making sure that you eat within that. A lot of us like to skip lunch. We work through lunch. We do all the things, especially working from home. It's like, oh, the kitchen's right there. Like, it's totally easy. Just grab it. I'll do it later. But it really is do it now. And then we can do the things that are on our to-do list. So that would absolutely be the number one thing to start that prioritizing yourself.
Yeah, perfect. And that's some great information because, being human beings, we are the beast of habit, right? People so many times they want to dive in with both feet, which that's what entrepreneurs do. So I can understand that. What they don't understand is that if you go from not leaving your house at all, now all of a sudden you leave your house and you want to do all this exercise and everything else, a lot of times why people fall off the bandwagon so quickly is because they're probably trying to feed their body too many changes at once, right?
Yep.
So number one, we're a beast of habit. But before we get into there, what brought you into being self-employed? I mean, tell us a little bit about your story. Obviously, you've got the fitness background. You've studied that. That's been a passion. But what allowed you to bring your passion of fitness into being self-employed? Tell us about that.
Absolutely. And it's partially what you talk about. It's control over my life. I like making the decisions. I like being able to be creative and, go a different path if I feel like it without having somebody say, no, that's not what we're doing. And so that really, came down to being an NCAA athlete. Your entire day, for the amount of time that you are an athlete, is completely dictated by someone else. It's dictated by the university. It's dictated by coaches. And so that really, the idea of prioritizing myself within that was very hard. Right. And thankfully, I had a nutritionist that helped me to see, what foods helped me, what foods didn't help me, and really brought me on this path to helping others do the same. She's the first one that brought up the term health coach to me, and what that really meant. And so then when I got into getting the full-time job and getting the first big kid job, it was working in a gym because I had a degree in kinesiology. I was getting my personal training certification, and that was what you went to go do. You're a personal trainer, you work in a gym.
Right.
And that was so limiting. It was so much more limiting than I could have imagined, because you are only available for the people that walk into your gym and the people that want personal training. And then who knows if you're the right personal trainer for them. So that really started me thinking of, okay, is online training feasible? Are people doing that? And so I started asking, different questions to different people and seeing where the possibility was and where the need was. So then moving into the online space, it really made my time, my resources, and my ability to serve my clients completely limitless. Like, I can help a client with fitness programming and doing that, and, learning how to be in a gym and learning how to do different things and different exercises, or I can work on meal prepping. We can really talk about nutrition and what fuels their body, or we can get into the real mindset stuff and what brings us to food. What foods do we feel attracted to? Those craving things, those body image things, those self-confidence things. I can really get down into the nitty-gritty of all of that. So my time and my ability to help my clients became absolutely limitless. And that happened 2 years ago. So when COVID hit, it wasn't a question of what I was doing and how I was serving my clients. It was just, how can I do more of it?
Yeah,
and
it's almost like you had a crystal ball. It's almost like you had a crystal ball.
Apparently.
Yeah, because we know what's going to happen in 2020, so I need to prep for it.
Oh my gosh. Right? Oh my gosh. If you had asked me January 1st, what's going to happen this year? Nobody knew. Nobody had any idea. And
100%.
so many people had to shift and change. And I applaud entrepreneurs that have been created and have shifted and pivot. That word will haunt me forever, is the word pivot from 2020. And it's so incredible to see.
So yeah, it's a great story and I love it. You identified quickly that being in the traditional business of gyms setting was not for you. And so you took your passion, you took what you knew how to do, you took your certifications and all of your training, and you bottled them up into an online coaching or training aspect, and I love that. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to touch on that, because if people, and I mentioned to you this before, I think doing it online, allowing people to remain in their comfort zone, being at home and still doing all those things, to me, I would imagine you would get a much higher success rate by people being in their home and doing those things rather than having to go into a gym. Because in a lot of people's minds, even though they've got these gyms that, you know, the no judge, you know, judge-free zone and all that, it's still not a comfortable place for them to be. So, and who's not comfortable in their home? If they're not comfortable in their home, well, then they've got other things to fix. But for the most part, you're comfortable in your home. So fantastic idea. So applaud that.
And absolutely, like you said about habits too, I want to add, we think that habits has to happen all at once. We have to change our habits. We have to drastically overturn our life. But really, the basis of consistent habit change is actually the consistencies and not the change. We focus on one small change and everything else stays consistent. That's how we build lasting habits.
Right. No, that's a great point, because when you, again, if you change too many things all at once, it's overwhelming. You're like, I can't do this. I'm freaking out over here.
And then everything gets dropped.
Right. Now you're like, forget it. It's too hard. I just can't do any of it. So then you go back to what you were doing before. So yeah, that's great. So the power of prioritizing yourself. So do you have some key, like some little nuggets, some things that you can recommend? Because, you know, telling somebody to wake up and have a routine, you know,
cool, basic stuff.
Yeah. It's easy to say that, but let's try to give a little more. So what do you suggest?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, it's the consistent habits, it's the small changes. So maybe a morning routine is too big right now. Maybe setting that morning routine and doing like what all the big business people do is too much right now. So you add one thing, add one, 10-minute reading bout, add one walk with your spouse or kids or dog or whoever's there with you. That's really the basis of it. But prioritizing ourselves, the most hardest number one tip that I have is learn about yourself first. No one thing is correct. Maybe you never do a morning routine. Maybe that's not right for you, but really getting down into what makes me feel the most full, focused, and ready and content in my life. Like that really is the hardest question to answer. And then having grace for yourself of what that answer is, because it may actually surprise you of what it is. Like last weekend, I did my first sensory deprivation tank. My first sensory deprivation pod. It was so crazy. And it was something that I never thought of doing. And one of my business friends said, hey, how about you go try this? And now it's like, how can I do this more? This is the one weird thing that I'm going to go do that makes me feel at peace and allows me to sit with myself and really ask those questions of, what's most serving me?
Right.
Which is a hard question for business owners to ask.
No, it is, because I think people need to have permission to be selfish. In some cases, you have to be selfish. Several years back, I went through a huge change in my life. I was over 400 pounds. I lost a lot of weight, but I had to really listen to myself, and I had to understand that I had to be the most important part of that whole journey. It was not just about the diet, the exercise, the supplementation, but I had to learn how to listen to my body. I had to learn what helped Sean before anybody else. It's no different than when you're on an airplane, and I've used this analogy a lot. When the oxygen mask falls down, you put yours on first, and then you help the person next to you. You can't be a good servant to people. You can't be a good trainer. You can't be a good wife. You can't be a good husband. You can't be a good father, business partner, mother, anything if you're not right yourself. So maybe give us a little bit of advice on why it's okay, or where you think would be the most influential points to a person on them taking selfish moments for themselves. Maybe we could tie that into today's topic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the way you use selfish, because it does add a little bit of power to it, that you're taking something for yourself. But I also want to add that there's a difference between selfishness and generosity, that you're actually being generous to yourself. You're having
that's a good
grace
point.
for yourself in what you're doing. Because when we say selfish, it means that we're doing something for ourselves that could possibly hurt something else. And I like to talk about it in terms of a plate. We like to put everything on our plate. You know, we say our plate's overloaded, or we have so much on our plate today. And we think that when we take a piece of our plate and say, this is my piece, this is for Sean, this is for Kacee, this is where I belong and I take care of myself, that it takes away from the rest of the plate. But actually, in complete honesty, when we take that piece and we say, you know, this is Sean's piece of the plate, our plate actually gets bigger and it gets stronger. It's able to handle more, and it's going to hold it up more. So saying that I deserve this piece of the plate, as hard as it is, and as hard as it is to ask the question of what actually belongs in this portion of the plate, it truly makes us better as you said, human beings. We like to be human doings way too much. And that piece of our plate makes us human beings, and it makes us more generous towards other people. It makes us help our customers and our clients and our patients and the people that rely on us, our family. It allows us to do more for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why, because like you said, the term selfish, right away, people think of it negative, because you're like, well, why are you being so selfish? Well, that's where you need to allow yourself permission to be selfish for yourself. But I love the generosity. I think that's a fantastic example, because that's exactly what it is. So I know that helped me, but it was also very challenging, because I've always been the type of person where I wanted to make sure that, you know, my wife was taken care of before I was taken care of. My son was taken, you know, I was never the person that, well, I'll be fine once everybody else is good. I will be fine. But there was that time in my life where I needed to have that focus on myself. And it's no different than when you start a business, is that if you don't put the focus in and prioritize your time and have those moments of being selfish, not just for you, but for your business, then you're not, in my opinion, you're not going to be able to get off the ground.
Yeah. And there's always the saying that you spend the most time with yourself. You spend the most time talking to yourself. You spend the most time in your body. You spend the most time in everything that you are. So just putting time or prioritizing it or saying, hey, I need to go do this for me, you know, how much does that really take away from anyone? It gives so much more, because then when we are with our family, when we are with our business, when we are with our clients, we are fully there.
Yep. And it's totally normal to talk to yourself. It's totally normal to have those conversations. I mean, I talk to myself all the time, because if I have a thought, or if there's something that I want to discuss with a client or my partner or even my wife, I'll be rambling my thought process in the shower or doing my thing. And my wife will be like, did you say something? I was like, no, I'm just talking to myself.
No, don't worry about it.
Yeah, she's used to it. And you know, the best part is I typically agree with myself, but I also can run the ideas by and be like, that didn't sound the way I wanted it to sound. So let me rework that. So the importance of food and movement. I know you mentioned a little bit something about that in some of our notes we were talking about. Let's talk about that, and let's tie it into how this is going to ultimately help you with your day-to-day, with your business and everything else.
100%. So movement, I have actually stopped using the word fitness and exercise when I talk to clients and I talk on social media and podcasts, because it really doesn't encompass everything that is healthy for us. When we think fitness, when we think exercise, most people think of punishment. Most people think they don't want to do it. I know that I need to do it. I know that I should do it. And that just means we really don't want to.
Right.
And movement really encompasses everything that our body loves to do. It loves to be active. If you go on a walk because you are stuck on, you know, your business plan, or you are terrified to quit your job, and I totally understand all of those things. I'm sure Sean went through it as well, but it just helps alleviate not just the body and helping it feel better, but it also helps the brain. Like you said, we talk to ourselves, and sometimes we have to talk things out to do it the best. So why not do it on a walk? My favorite app nowadays is actually Otter. It's a voice memo app that I talk to myself and I let it transcribe for me. So then I can go back and, you know, see what I said, see what I thought through. But I usually do that walking. I have my headphones in. I just walk around the house, you know, talking to myself about different business things, different programs, things that I need to do for clients. And it really, really helps, but it's the movement that helps it. So we think of exercise, we think of fitness, and we think it has to be hard. We think it has to be grunting in the gym, like you said, the judge-free zones and all of that. It has to be hard. We have to be drenched with sweat. It absolutely does not. It can be a simple walk, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. And then food is part of that freedom because it gives us the energy. It helps us to focus. And if we put judgments on our food, then we're actually putting judgments on ourselves and what we are able to do and the limitless freedom that we have. Food can actually hinder that if we're holding our food to a higher standard or a restrictive standard. So eating consistently is a very, very large thing for entrepreneurs and business owners and people working from home. I mean, you forget to eat, you don't eat, you get stuck in a meeting. Yep. That food really is that grounding point that we're able to reset and we're able to feed our brain and feed our body and, feel better. Nobody wants a hangry person on their Zoom meeting or on their podcast.
And I get diet-bangry if I don't eat. Let me tell you, my wife will be like, Sean, you need some food.
Yeah. Let's go quick. Eat.
And I'm like, you're right. I am getting a little agitated. No, it's some great points. A few episodes ago, I had a guest that talked about something very similar to what you were mentioning about, the topic was you have to break before you break. You have to take a break before you break. Yep. And he was talking about these recharging moments, about having these moments for yourself. One of the things that was brought up in the episode is, when you take a shower, you have no other interruptions. You're just in there to shower, right? Mm-hmm. So you think when you're in the shower. I think when I drive, but the fact that you can do all this while you're walking and all that stuff, that's another good point too. That's an opportunity for you to recharge because you've got to be able to be creative for your business. Yep. You've got to be able to think on your toes. And so having those moments between the food and movement, and we've all got these smartwatches now that tell us when we've reached our standing goal or this goal. And we all get so excited. We're like, woohoo, I reached my standing goal and I'm sitting.
Yeah.
So,
right. You just kind of shake your wrist. I have actually stopped wearing my Apple Watch, and I had a podcast episode for my podcast about productivity. And he talked about that exact thing. I have my Apple Watch. It tells me when to stand up. It tells me when to take breaks. It's this and that. It's the biggest productivity that I have. And I was like, it's actually my biggest distractor because all of my notifications come onto it. And I know I can turn them off, but I don't really want to because I like the distraction. I like looking at my phone. Yeah. Like all of that typical millennial stuff. I get it. Yep. Right? Yep. All the emails that come in. So I stopped wearing mine. But it doesn't mean that I don't still take those breaks. And so something that I've really, really learned in this journey of becoming a business owner is the difference between busyness and productivity. Because busyness is, I'm so busy, I can't even take 10 minutes for myself to go on this walk. But productivity is, okay, I sit for 30 minutes, I work on the task that I have, at that 30 minutes, I get up and walk for 10 minutes and then I do 20 more minutes. And it's such a more productive hour than it would have been if you had sat and forced yourself to be at the computer until an idea comes to you.
Right. And that's a huge point because I know with my business partner and I, if it's not on our schedule, if it's not on our calendar, it's not going to happen. So we will schedule everything because we have to. We're forced to. Otherwise, the day gets away. Entrepreneurs are very creative people. We think super fast. So being able to execute all those thoughts, it's impossible. You're not going to be able to do it. So you have to be able to stay on track. And that's where we prioritize, right?
Yep.
Anything else you wanted to mention about the power of prioritizing your schedule, your day?
Yeah. Your schedule is so important. Like you said, if it's not on my schedule, it doesn't get done. And so where I'm in a service industry, I have coaching clients, I have podcast guests, I do so many things that I have a scheduler. I use Acuity. And I have to really watch where my availability is in Acuity because people, like, I will sit and have an empty schedule and then all of a sudden I have, 6 hours of calls. So that's something to be aware of, that when you start to put processes in place and you start to really automate things, make sure that you're putting that time in for yourself. Make sure you're putting in a reflection hour, a walking, 10 minutes so that your schedule doesn't let people schedule your time for you.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Mhm.
So let's talk about you and your business and how the listeners can reach out to you. I know you've got a website, KaceeFitness.com, and Kacee is spelled Kecee, fitness.com. And then we have your 7-day health challenge. Now, maybe you could talk about that. Maybe there's a little incentive for people that are listening. If there's something you want to maybe do a little call to action, because while we're recording this, we're coming up to the holidays and to the end of the year. And so everybody comes up with these New Year's resolutions, and whether those are a good idea or not, because 9 times out of 10 people don't follow through with them, which, it is what it is. But whether you're listening at the end of the year or not, it's always good to be on top of your game and to what's going on. So let's talk about that 7-day health challenge. Maybe you've got a call to action for the guests.
100%. So the 7-day health challenge is truly focused in investigating where you most need attention, where you most want to put your time. So it's got information about cravings. It's got action steps and immunity boosting. It has 2 at-home workouts that are half an hour. So they're in, get it done, get out, get on with your day. An incentive that I'll put in for your podcast listeners, whether you're listening to it now or in 6 months at the beginning of 2021, 3 months. Oh my gosh, crazy.
I know.
No matter where you're listening, if you're listening to Sean and this incredible podcast about firing your boss, I will add a 30-minute private coaching call valued $200 to the 7-day health challenge if you just mention that you heard it on this podcast.
Well, how about that? A free 30-minute session. Kacee, I appreciate that. And I will tell you that I didn't give you heads up on that. So that's pretty cool. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. My focus, and now that I've settled into, being certifiably unemployable, which I absolutely love that, it really is truly serving others and what I can do to help others get to this point of freedom as well.
Well, I appreciate that. So speaking of, at what point did you realize that you were certifiably unemployable?
That was really about a year ago that once I put it on my resume and stopped updating my resume, that's where it happened. I didn't update even my master's degree onto my resume and all of that kind of fun stuff, that it was, I don't like being really, really excited for a project and somebody going, no, we're not going to do it that way because that's dumb.
Yeah.
That was the point that I was like, you know what? I have complete control and faith in myself, and my clients get the most personalized, individualized, tailored plan that they absolutely can.
Yeah. Last week I was sitting in a couple of meetings and the topic of resume came up, and I'm thinking, when was the last time I did a resume?
What's that?
Yeah. That's so 1990s,
Right?
For me, well, I mean, I've been self-employed since 2001, but full-time self-employed since 2001, self-employed since 18. But I'll tell you, it's not always easy, but it's always rewarding, right? Always rewarding.
Absolutely.
All right, so Kacee, thank you so much for being on our show today. I love what you're doing. I think your concept is great. I love your energy and appreciate it very much. So I want to remind everybody that you want to check out KaceeFitness.com. I'm going to put the link for her 7-day health challenge. So when you go on the challenge, as she said, you mentioned you heard her on Certifiably Unemployable. She'll give you a free 30-minute session, which is a value of $200. Take advantage of that. And you can also find her on Facebook under Kacee Fitness, as well as Instagram under Kacee Fitness as well. So Kacee, thank you for joining us on Certifiably Unemployable.
Thank you so much, Sean.
All right. So don't forget to leave your comments, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and share this because you know somebody that needs to hear this message. Until next time.
You've been listening to Certifiably Unemployable. Ready to fire the boss yet? You're on your way. Sean has been self-employed for over 20 years. So if that's something that you want to do, something you've been dreaming about for years, Sean has all the knowledge, good, bad, and indifferent. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook and Instagram at Certifiably Unemployable. Find us on YouTube and at www.certifiablyunemployable.com. Till next time, this is Certifiably Unemployable, signing off.